Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers just continue to be hot on the recruiting trail after their recent commitment. And guys, we have to talk about exactly what is Dabo Swinney and the Clemson staff doing at Clemson, because some people had them falling off the face of the earth after some specific staff left the team to come to Oklahoma. But you know what? Dabo Swinney said, no way, I'm still here. So before we jump into it, guys, go ahead and hit that like and hit that subscribe button. Jump down in the comments below and let me know what y'all's thoughts are. What do you guys think about Clemson, and where do you think they're going to end up going in the future? I guess without their star defensive coordinator that is at Oklahoma. But the Clemson Tigers earned a commitment today from the 4-star running back Gideon Davidson. And he chose Clemson over the likes of Ohio State, Notre Dame, others, and he is a current top 70 player in the 2025 class, and definitely going to be a top target for a lot of teams to potentially try to flip as you enter the 2025 cycle. Now, he's a guy that recently just picked up an offer from Clemson, so it's important to note. Remember, Clemson doesn't throw out a whole lot of offers until they're pretty much ready to take a guy. When you go look at their offer sheets, they're kind of small. But then you look at the teams like the Clemson Tigers put out on the field, and yet somehow, you know what? They're able to be a national championship contending team year in and year out. But Gideon Davidson, a 6-foot, 193-pound running back out of Lynchburg, Virginia, had a little over 19 offers. And, you know, they weren't small offers. Like I said, Ohio State, he had offers from Auburn, Miami, Michigan, Notre Dame, Oklahoma with DeMarco Murray, Oregon, Tennessee, USC, Wake Forest. I mean, you just look at the offer list. It's pretty impressive. You're just missing a couple of others. And ultimately, this is a guy that you believe, hey, he's going to come in. He's going to be a long-term starter for us. And I say us, not my Clemson Tigers. They're your guys' Clemson Tigers, but you know what I'm getting at. A guy that could be a big starter for you guys, and a guy that's just extremely athletic. But in 2021, he had 112 rushing attempts for 1,241 rushing yards and 19 rushing touchdowns. So you see that he's able to produce. He's got the speed. You could see that in his track times. Ran a 10.69 100 meter, and then 3 more in the 11.2 range as a freshman in the spring of 2022. So he's got the speed. He's got the ability to make the cut. He's got the intangibles there to be the next great Clemson running back. And really, I think a lot of the questions that we had about Clemson after Brent Venables and some of the staff left on the defense, which is where we're going to start to transition, Clemson, I think, has pretty well answered a lot of those questions for us. And you might go, hey, as a Clemson fan, we didn't have those questions, which, hey, you know what? Rightfully so. More power to you for not having those questions about your team. But I think the world has been put on notice about who exactly Clemson has on their staff. Because you look at it on the defensive side, and Wes Goodwin getting probably one of the biggest wins of his career in Sammy Brown, the 5-star linebacker Sammy Brown, the number 1 overall linebacker, which was something I think a lot of people thought could only be done by BV. But then you look at some of the other guys that Wes Goodwin has done, not only as just the linebackers coach, but as the defensive coordinator. Landed the 5-star defensive lineman in last cycle, Peter Woods. The 4-star, former 5-star, Vic Burley, the defensive lineman. Jamal Anderson, 4-star linebacker. Stephon Green, a 4-star defensive lineman. All of those in the 2022 class. He's doing a good job. And if you're a Clemson fan, you're feeling pretty good about it. But then you could look at Nick Eason and say, well, what about Nick Eason? Well, Nick Eason, the defensive tackles coach and the defensive line coach, hey, you know what? He might not have any 5-stars on his resume as a, well, let me phrase that. He's got Peter Woods. He was primary there. Wes Goodwin was the secondary. But he might not have a ton of 5-stars like Todd Bates did on his resume. And he might not have a bunch of guys in the league that he can point to and say, look at those guys. They're getting paid. Development right there. Nick Eason, he's going to have himself a resume with the recruits. Because if you look at who Clemson is in for the 2024 cycle on the defensive line, you expect them to continue to add some big-time players here. The first one is Edric Houston out of Beaufort, Georgia, right? If you're Clemson, you're right in that recruitment. I think there's been crystal balls flowing in for Ohio State. I think that's where Steve Wiltfong likes Edric Houston. But if you're Clemson, you're in that recruitment for a 5-star defensive lineman, the number 19 overall player, the 247 composite. And then, of course, you got his buddy right down the road. Well, same high school, KJ Bolden. So you lay in one of them, good chance of getting the second one. But then you've got Darion Mayo, the 6'7", 250-pound defensive lineman, the number 178th ranked player in the country out of Wayne, Maryland. So right there, another opportunity for Clemson to potentially go out there and land a top 200 player in the country and a defensive lineman for that. So when you look at what Clemson could potentially be doing on the defensive side of the ball, it's almost like they didn't miss a beat. Oh, we lost BV. Guess what? We've got 2 other really great recruiters to replace BV, Miguel Chavis, Todd Bates, and the staff. And then not to mention, well, you have a change in offensive coordinator. You don't hire internally like what Dabo likes to do. You go out there and you find one of the brightest and youngest offensive coordinators in Garrett Riley, who just went to the national championship at TCU. And now all of a sudden, you're in recruitments for the likes of offensive linemen like Casey Poe, William Satterwhite, Jordan Seaton, which Jordan Seaton is borderline 5-star. You haven't landed your quarterback in this class, but you just got a 5-star quarterback in the last class. So do you really need to go out there and push hard for another one? So you look at what Garrett Riley is going to be able to bring, and you go, okay, you feel good about what Clemson's doing, putting you in opportunities to go out there and land Fletcher Westphal, Jamison Riggs, Ronan O'Connell. So I look at it from the outside looking in. I see the wide receivers. You just landed 5-star wide receiver Bryant Wesco. You're in there like swimwear for Mike Matthews and Cameron Coleman. Not to mention, you're on the outside looking in for Ryan Wingo, which if you're on the outside looking in there, you're still in a really good spot. So got your running back for this class. Clemson could walk out of here with a better recruiting class than Oklahoma and say, we're not missing a beat. We're trying to get back in contention for the college football playoffs. Because, well, ideally, when you look at the ACC, not really a whole lot of teams that are going to be causing Clemson problems. All right, let's just put it out there. Not a lot that are going to be causing them problems. And so you look at who Clemson potentially get, like a Corian Gibson. You could be seeing that commitment wrap up soon. Ricardo Jones, the 6'3", 200-pound safety. You've also got Braylon Staley, Alex Taylor. If you're a Clemson fan, you like where Clemson's at on the recruiting trail. You're not feeling bad at all. You've already got 2 5-stars, one on the offense, one on the defense, one to kind of help your young quarterback continue to shine and continue to blossom. Not to mention, you held one of the biggest official visit weekends on June 2nd, had premier talent across the board there, and you feel like you're sitting in a pretty good spot for some of those guys. So, Clemson fans, I want to hear from you. Go ahead, jump down in the comments below, and let me know what y'all's thoughts are. What do you think about this class for Clemson, and where do you think Clemson's going to go here in the future? Because from the outside looking in, as an Oklahoma fan, watching what Clemson's doing without their star defensive coordinator, it's definitely interesting.